Something not so, it is interesting, but not so fun or lighthearted is, obviously there's stuff going on out in the Middle East between Iran and Israel, but
and us
as the United States, and as a trucking industry as a whole, I think it's going to play a big effect because of the Strait of Hormuz. It is a crucial thoroughfare for all of the OPEC nation and the Eastern, like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, all those countries, I almost said companies, that produce oil to get out. So it connects the Gulf of Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman.
Okay.
Which is, if you look on a map, runs it through like the side of every one of those countries that produces oil. And Iran is right there, and they've put threats on.
They're going to control it.
They're going to block it.
Yep.
Experts are saying that, and I don't know the current barrel price of oil, but experts are saying that if that happens, which I don't know if it's going to get there, if it's a scare tactic or what, but I don't think anyone knows. I mean, they signed a ceasefire and it was violated
the next day,
15 minutes later. But if that happens, experts are saying that we could see barrel prices of fuel go up to $130 a barrel. Crude oil.
Yep.
But that strait alone handles 20 million barrels of fuel a day.
20 million barrels of oil.
And I think a barrel, if I remember, I don't know this exactly, I think it's 44 gallons in a barrel.
20 million.
Yep.
And it's at, let's just say $100 a gallon, or $100 a barrel.
Yep.
What's that?
$4 a gallon?
No. 20 million times 100.
2 billion, I think.
I think so.
Something like that.
Add 2 zeros to 20 million. Yeah.
200.
$2 billion dollars at $100, and that's a day.
Yeah, 20 million barrels of fuel a day, which is 20% of the oil produced in the whole world.
Wow.
Just through that strait alone, and it's 21 miles.
So you shut that 20% down.
Most of that fuel goes to Eastern countries, Asia, China, Japan, all of that, where their industry right now relies very, very heavily on that fuel.
Right.
But there are other, like Saudi Arabia's got an east-west pipeline, and they just don't have, it's at max capacity. So there's no other ways to get fuel to that side of the world if that happens. So it's being watched. It's going to be something in the news. But one thing that I thought related pretty, I guess, urgently to the trucking industry was how does the trucking industry adapt to almost double the price of fuel? Now, I'm not saying, hey, that's going to translate exactly, because I don't know how that's all going to work out, and I don't think anyone does. But if that were, I mean, the short answer is, we got to charge more for fuel. I mean, we were in that during the COVID days and things like that.
We've kind of talked about the master plan that the current administration, we think, has. I mean, I'm not saying maybe the plan was to go to war, prepare to have that shut off. But he's been talking about drill, baby, drill. I don't know where that's at. I haven't seen anything in the news. But is that is our reliance on other countries coming to an end? Are we, we're talking about the U.S. Steel, we're talking about drilling, and we're talking about all this stuff being kept domestic here in the U.S.
Right. Which we'll get into more, but.
Okay. I think it all makes sense to me.
Right.
Now, you have to be a team. I think you have to be a team player to some extent, right? We still have to export stuff. There's a lot of people in this country that rely on exports.
Right.
We do rely on imports as well. But, man, if you could keep the U.S. Self-sufficient, independent, whatever you want to call
90%?
I think that's pretty enticing.
Well, and I think, if you look at it like a household or a company, like if you can keep your stuff in-house, it's usually easier to control. You can have a better product delivered. You have more, hands on it, whatever. It may cost a little bit more, but what's that worth to you, right? But I don't understand, if if that oil is going east, right? The majority of it, they said, I think 57% of that oil was going east. That was coming out of that area. So for simple math, let's call it 10 million barrels a day.
Okay.
How does that get replaced? Like, are we going to supplement that? Are we going to start selling that back master plan wise? Does that make sense? Does that
do we have it? You know,
well, I know
but
that we were the biggest oil producer, I think, in 2023. I don't know if the numbers for 2024 came out, but the United States was the biggest oil producer at one point recently. So do we have some extra? Yeah, I would say we probably do, but I don't know that. I don't think anyone knows that.
They'll probably regulate that to sell it to our allies, right?
Right. So just interesting. Obviously, there's going to be more coming every minute, I think, on this whole thing, but it's something to watch out for is if that does get pinched off or choked off like they're saying it's going to, it could mean higher fuel prices, which mean higher shipping rates, higher, this, that, or shortages.
And in our industry right now, freight rates are down. I mean, it's
but we don't have enough drivers.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of trucks, not a whole lot of freight.
Right.
Now you start compounding that with higher fuel costs. We talked about higher insurance costs. Everything's going up. Something's going to have to give.
Yeah, and what is that? I mean, the beauty of business is, hey, the strong survive, right? And I'm not wishing ill will on anyone, but if you're highly leveraged or not in a good financial situation, you very, very quickly lose your ability to make an adjustment because the funds just aren't there.
Yeah, and we talked about it as a whole. It's going to be a short-term pain for long-term gain. I still believe that. And you're right. It does weed out some of the people that shouldn't be doing what they're doing. But
they always pop back
God
up.
forbid that could be any of us. It really could.
Right.
Anybody, in business, in your household, whatever, you're one bad move away from
a bad situation.
Disaster. Yeah. Right. But you either have to overcome, you have to figure it out, and thankfully we've always been able to do that.
Right.
So, but I think we're still in a little short-term pain here. We've had a lot of projects push off.
Right.
We've had a lot of projects get discontinued. And when I say push off, it's June right now. Some are getting pushed to late July, late August, right?
Yeah, and you kind of get a mix of, is it tariff related, if it's funding related, if it's this or that.
It hasn't really. Tariffs haven't been that hot of a topic.
No, but they were, and everyone pinched off and held back, and now all of a sudden people are realizing that, hey, that probably wasn't a good idea.
Yeah.
Because, oh crap, now we're behind the eight ball on this or we're behind the eight ball on that. And production, you can't just stop a ball rolling down the hill without it having to eventually start again.
Yeah. On the tariff topic, most people that I've talked to have said, yes, maybe we've seen an increase, maybe 8% or whatever. But what was Trump saying? 50%, 125% in some instances. That hasn't been an issue. And the ones who were saying they did get a tariff or an increase because of the tariffs, don't believe it was actually due to the tariffs.
No,
they believe
it
was
protection.
It was like a easy out.
Right.
Oh, tariffs are here. We're going to bump up the prices a little bit.
It's like insurance rates. Oh, here's your annual increase. It's just an easy way for people to sell and get more money.
Yeah. I'm sure in other industries that they were affected differently, but that's just at least what I've seen.
Right.